Guys, what's up? It's Firefang92, finally bringing you some non-news based content. Uh, this is a deck I've been putting off profiling for a little bit because, well, it was incomplete. It's still kind of incomplete because it's missing a couple cards, but I'm going to get them hopefully at the end of the week. But I finally got like 90% of the pieces, so I'm gonna do a deck profile, and hopefully I get back to fight videos sooner or later, but my camcorder has some battery life issues, and I'm doing most of my recording on just my laptop, which, if you've noticed in the news video, there's a lot of bumping and clicking. That's me actually using the mouse and keyboard. But sorry about that. Anyway, into the deck. It's my Dimensional Robo Metalborgs, and we're going to start with the starter, Metalborg Loco Battler. I'm seeing kind of a weird glare. I hope that's showing up clearly for you. He is the new Metalborg starter out of Cosmic Roar. Slip him into the soul, give up to 2 of your Vanguards 3k. Basically, I like him because he's a 5k starter. And adds a little bit of power to your Sinbuster plays. I've been thinking about maybe switching him back to Die Magnum, because he's a little bit more versatile, but yeah, sometimes the 6k versus 4k makes a difference. I think we're going to start at bosses, then move down the grades, then back into the G zone, so starting off with the primary boss of the deck, we got 4 copies of Metalborg Sinbuster. He's from BT16. What he does is he legions, something you probably haven't seen in a while because the Stride era coming out. But he legions with Metalborg Urbuster, who we'll talk about in a sec. And if he has 30 or more when he attacks, including boost, he gets a glory skill. And if he has 20 or more when he attacks, so if he's in Legion, basically. Although sometimes you can get it off earlier, and early draws are helpful. So he gets the effect that if he hits, he draws. He's kind of underwhelming on his own, which is why people don't play like the full Metalborg deck. But with a lot of the other pieces, particularly the D-Robos, we can get him to do some impressive stuff. He's basically just the finisher in the deck. Next, in the Grade 3 lineup, we have 2 copies of Die Kaiser, and the thing that isn't complete is, instead of an additional 2 Die Kaisers right now, I have Baron Greater. This will eventually be 4 Die Kaiser, but I had to get this profile out there sooner or later. What Die Kaiser does is Break Ride, another piece you probably haven't seen in a while. So this deck is dealing with Legion, Break Ride, and Stride. It's cross-season. Anyway, Break Ride, Counterblast 1, Vanguard gets 10k power and a crit. And then if you drive check a Grade 3, you can retire a guard, and that also stops perfect guards, but it doesn't really matter, because you're going Glory over him. You're not likely to get off the guard breaking effect. It just sort of makes your opponent a little bit more hesitant about guarding, which is kind of nice. But the primary fact is that you can get off the glory with a 10k and a crit. Basically what I'm saying is if he was an Ashley clone, I would still play him. Baron Greater, not much to say about him. Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, ride a Sinbuster from your deck, and Soul Blast when he's on rearguard to give him 3k. Most of the time he's just ditch to Stride fodder. But yeah, eventually he'll end up being another Die Kaiser. Moving on into the Grade 2s, for the obvious one, we have 4 copies of your mate, Urbuster. Another thing that makes the glory from Sinbuster really worth it is his effect. When your Vanguard Legions, you give it 4k, and the effect that if it hits, retire something. So even if you do like miss your break ride and have to go straight into Sinbuster, you can use him and Sinbuster to get off some pretty large advantage. And mostly he's in there because he's your mate. Though I do tend to play him a lot because advantage! Yay! Moving on to a new piece we got in Cosmic Roar is 3 copies of Cosmic Hero Grand Fire. Nice little card. G-Break 1, when he attacks, if he's boosted, give 2 things 4k. He's very efficient to add power to things. So that's good. Maybe you set up some lines, maybe pump Daikaiser up for that perfect, not Daikaiser, Sinbuster. And maybe you can fix some columns. He gets a little bit more important with another card I talk about down the line. Next up, we have 4 copies of Dimensional Robo Die Jet. I really like this card. He's Gen Break 1 once per turn. Send back a Grave 3D Robo, so in this deck, one of your Daikaisers, to the bottom of the deck, or just to the deck and shuffle. Put it on top of your deck, then shuffle your deck. Then choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets 4k, and the effect that, if it hits, Counterblast 1 to draw. So more draws, good for defense, because this deck, sort of, if you can get into late game with this deck, you will kill your opponent. It's got a lot of killing power. And that 4k is nice, extra power, helps your Sinbuster go off, etc., etc. He's really primarily important with one of the strides that we'll talk about in a second. So, on to the Grade 1 lineup. 1 copy, Metalborg Black Doctor. 6k, boost the Legion for 10. Automatic Sinbuster, not much to talk about there. There'll probably be another thing sooner or later. 4, Metalborg Mist Ghost. Counterblast 1, when he's put on rear guard, give up to 2 of your Vanguards 10k. 4k, sorry. It'd be crazy broken if it was 10k. 8k boost to your Sinbuster. He's pretty nice. Even if you're not on Sinbuster, you can Counterblast 1 to give your Vanguard 4, which is pretty okay. Not much to say about him. He's pretty much been staple in the Metalborg deck since day 1. Next up, 3 copies of Cosmic Hero Grand Rope. This deck likes to stride a lot, so I gotta have those stride fodders so that I can stride a lot. His first effect doesn't matter. His second effect is if you would drop him to stride, he gets grade +2. So I drop him and I stride, because this deck really, really loves its strides. And finally, the part of the Grade 1 lineup we've all been dreading. Don't hit me. I play 2 copies of Commander Laurel. Scumbag card, right here. 4k, Grade 1. When your Vanguard hits anything, rest 4 of your rear guards to stand your Vanguard. He was developed back in BT4, and I'd say that shows through nowadays, because this kind of standing is just plain broken. You don't have to discard or anything. The idea was that resting 4 means 2 less attacks, so hypothetically you trade soft -2 for a hard +2. But with the numbers some of your Vanguards can, like, if this was a less Vanguard-centric deck, it might make sense. But since your Vanguards are swinging for crazy numbers with crits all the time, It doesn't make sense. And then now with strides, you're trading a incredibly soft -2 for a hard +3. So it time broke him. He's but you gotta play him because he's basically what makes the deck work. Honestly, if Laurel's not in there, Dimension Police right now do absolutely jack. Because honestly, they're a very poorly designed clan. It's like... It's sort of like Dark Irregulars in that they're both made to just sort of break your opponent eventually. But with Dark Irregulars, it's sort of easier to carry on for longer. You just have to set up the soul and then you're done, and you can keep doing... You can just keep swinging for the rest of the game. But with Dimension Police, you actually have to have some agency and get some power plus in cards, or else you're just sitting on a vanilla deck with bad rear card support. But you've got this broken mess. A lot of people say we should ban them, like they did in Japan, down to 1. We probably should, but I doubt they will. They very much hate to restrict the English game, so he's probably going to stay at 4. I wouldn't recommend playing him at 4, though. He's an absolutely shitty ride option, and if you do have to do things like boost Rose in early game, he can't do that either. It's part of the reason I play Grand Fire, so you can fix lines that have him in there. If you can't afford the 4 rear guards, say you're going up against like Narukami or Kagero, then you're gonna need him as a booster, and he's not a good booster. But yeah, I think I'd recommend playing him at 3. 2's been a little bit low for me. I have a little bit of difficulty getting to him, but yeah, I guess I'd drop the Black Doctor for a third one if he wasn't like $25 right now. 25 is a liberal estimate. Yeah, broken card makes your deck invincible. Trigger lineup. We'll start with the easy to explain stuff. 4 Metal Borg heals. 3 draws, because I had to make room for some other stuff. 6 crit, because I had to make room for some other stuff. This one has an effect where you can slip them into the soul, get 3k to a grade 3 Metal Borg and a grade 2 Metal Borg. So it helps set up Sin Buster primarily, but it can also be used to fix some rear guard columns if you have to. Then next we have 3 stand triggers. Why do I play 3 stand triggers? Because of their effects. This one, Metal Borg Operator Kilika. Slip her into the soul. Give 3k to up to 2 of your vanguards. So again, help set up your Sin Buster plays. And then 1 copy of this. Operator Girl Reika. Gen break 1, act, put her into the soul. Choose choose one of your vanguards and it gets 4k. And then the effect that when it attacks a vanguard, if its power is 37 or greater, which is not that hard with all the plussing options in this deck, it gets the ability to counterblast 1 and draw. And it's nice. More draws, a little more power. Stands are actually pretty nice considering Laurel. You can still get in your attacks, despite the fact that despite the fact that 4 of your rows are being rested. And if your opponent does come out of the double Laurel swing, they're probably going to be very sapped on resources. So if you hit a stand there, you can pretty much guarantee the kill. And I have to apologize because I missed a grade 1. Luckily for me, I accidentally dropped them on the floor. So I noticed. We got 3 perfect guards. Diamond Ace, old school, very nice. And 1 quintet wall. You might say I should probably be playing the PGGs, the new unflipping ones, the Grand Guard. But I like having the quintet, honestly. That's the only reason. If you it can allow you to guard early, whereas it's more difficult with a perfect guard or a G perfect guard. And it helps set up for Legion if you have to go straight into the Legion. So I just needed the quintet wall, so I'm playing the quintet wall. So next we move on to G Zone. We got 1 copy of Super Cosmic Hero X Rogue, the preview promo. He's when his power is 37 or greater, when he hits Vanguard, you can retire one of your opponent's rear guards and draw a card. Good, solid advantage, and it's nice that he's when he hits, so you can just stride him regularly, attack for 31, and if you hit 2 triggers, you get the effect. Because most of the time you will be stacking them on your Vanguard because of Laurel. But basically most of the time he's a vanilla because you want to save your power plussing options for your Sinbuster Daikaiser play turn. Next up we have 3 copies of Dark Superhuman Omega. What he does is, when he's stridden, Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1, and put one of your rear guards in the soul, then your opponent's entire front row loses the power of that unit. Basically what he's in there for is softening your opponent up while you wait to make your play with Sinbuster, because if they're down like 9 or 11, you're probably going to hit them 3 times that turn, or twice if you're using Laurel. And it nerfs the rear guards, so with the new G perfect guards, you can send him after a rear guard, and then Laurel to stand him back up. So if you need to get the additional plussing, that's a nice way to do it. Next up, we have 3 copies of excuse me, this is difficult. 99th Dimensional Robo Commander Great Dire. What he does is Counterblast 2, flip up a Dimensional Robo G unit, which is just him right now, and if there are 2 or more Dimensional Robo G units face up, he gains a crit, and just by activating the effect, you get to call a grade 2 and a grade 3 Dimensional Robo. So in this deck, that's your Daikaisers and your Daijets, which plussing in Dimensional Robos is really important, because you've got to wait for the time to break your opponent, and it gets you 2 consistent attackers, so that's good. Not much to say about that. You want to be able to attack well. You've got the Daijet in there to help set up his ability, because they're both acts, so even if your Daikaisers are in the drop, you can use the Daijet to cycle them back and still get the 2 calls. You will have to have an additional one in hand, as well as the one you are calling and the Daikaiser you're calling, which I know a lot of you are screaming up the screen, that gives you a useless column, because you're going to have a 9 in front of 2 in front of a 2, or a 3 in front of a 2. But the important thing is you just want the mass call to just add to the field so that you can Laurel. Why do I have 3 of him when he's a Persona Flipper? Well, the idea is most of the time your strides are vanilla. Because you're saving all your pieces for the Sin Buster play. The Sin Buster play is the most important thing in the deck, bar none. You want to get to that, nothing else matters. So, but if I think I can maybe squeeze a little bit more guard out of my opponent by gaining the crit, I can just stride into 1 vanilla normally, or flip it up with 1 more card we're going to talk about in a second. And then use the last 2 to get the crit. It's a little bit inefficient, and yeah, you might be better off with 4 of him, but again, the G space is jam-packed. I really need the Dark Superman, I really need the X-Rogue, and I really need this last thing that I'm going to show. Also, this last thing that I'm going to show works with him as well, in that it helps him get a face-up. So as most of you are probably guessing right now, the last unit is Super Cosmic Hero X Tiger. He is a spectacular finishing play. If you're still sitting on your Daikaiser and never make your Sin Buster play, you still get to finish a game by going into this guy, because what he does is flip up a G unit, and then he gets 4k for every face-up G unit. And if his power is 45,000 or greater when he attacks, this is all on attack, by the way, so if his power is 45,000 or greater, he gets a crit. So you're talking about a really large number coming in with a crit. So it really has the potential to close out a game, or at least suck out a lot of guard for Sin Buster to finish later. So he's a fantastic play to go into. I don't want to play more because, again, it's honestly easier to soften the opponent with Dark Superman than it is with him, because then you're dealing with multiple attacks having to guard instead of just 1 where you can perfect guard. And you need the zeros out of the hand rather than the perfect guards for Sin Buster. So I only play 1 of him, and I play the 3 Superman. But he's really nice. I really enjoy him. And an alternate play you can make with him is to stride into him first, flip up the Die Earth, and then next turn go into Die Earth. And that way, hypothetically, you've got, best case, 2 turns, big number with crit. And that, if that seems like it's going to be a more effective way to finish your opponent, that's what you do. Because G-Zones right now are all about just diversity and having the ability to make the right play. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This has been my Dimensional Robo Metalborg deck, or I should say my Laurel deck, because he does most of the work. I don't bring this thing to tournaments just because it's sort of like mean. It's like how I'm 9 times better with my Narukami than I am with any other deck, so I don't tend to like to bring the Narukami to tournaments, because unless I really need stuff. If a new set's just dropped and I need packs but I can't afford them, I'm coming in with Narukami and I'm beating everybody so that I can get some packs. But I don't like to bring this, and I don't like to bring Narukami because I like to have more fun than that. I like to just not be like the guy who's just gonna beat you. I like to offer a fun game for everybody. And I hope that reflects in the times I have with my friends down at Gamers Gambit. So, so that's the reason I don't really play this much. But when I do play it in free games, it can be a lot of fun, because the whole concept is just to establish a massive beater, punch your opponent in the face, and laugh as they die. uh, so slightly sadistic, but honestly, one of the really nice things about this deck is that there is no particular kill range. Like for Iggy or Gilles, the kill range is like 3 to 4. But with this, combining the Laurel with the massive power Sin Buster over Daikaiser, it's not that big of an assumption to say that you can kill them at 0, because that just requires hitting a crit on the first checks. And they're not going to be able to guard, and they're going to take the attacks twice. So you everything is your kill range. Like maybe a tag game your opponent could survive if they took no damage the whole game, but it's gonna get you. So, alrighty, this is Firefang92 signing out.